Psychology of people who don't use social media. There's a certain type of person you probably know. They don't post. They don't upload stories. They don't announce life updates. While everyone else is sharing their life online, they're completely absent. And in today's world, that feels strange. People assume they're antisocial, out of touch, or hiding something. But psychology tells a very different story. Because people who don't use social media aren't missing out. In many cases, they've simply opted out intentionally. Let me ask you something. When was the last time you felt pressure to post something just so people wouldn't forget you exist? That pressure alone explains everything. Social media isn't just a platform anymore. It's a performance space. Every post quietly asks, is my life interesting enough? Will people approve? Does this version of me look successful, happy, fulfilled? Psychologist Irving Goffman described life as a stage where people manage impressions using social masks. Social media didn't invent this behavior. It amplified it. Now the mask never comes off and the audience never leaves. For people who don't use social media, the decision often starts with one realization. I don't want to live my life for an audience. Research shows that a large portion of users, around one-third, either rarely post or don't post at all. They're often labeled lurkers. But studies published in Frontiers in Psychology suggest something important. When constant comparison, fear of judgment, privacy concerns, outside pressure combine, the brain experiences emotional overload. The result? Anxiety, mental fatigue, withdrawal, not because the person is weak, but because the brain is setting boundaries. Think about how social media trains the mind. You scroll past promotions, relationships, vacations, achievements compressed into seconds. Even when you know it's curated, your brain reacts as if it's real. Psychologists call this upward social comparison, and it slowly erodes self-esteem. People who don't use social media often recognize this early. They understand that constantly measuring your life against edited highlights is a losing game. So instead of participating, they step back. Another key reason is control. According to self-determination theory, humans feel healthiest when they experience autonomy, making choices free from external validation. Social media does the opposite. It ties identity to feedback. Likes become approval. Silence becomes rejection. People who avoid social media often don't want their self-worth quantified. They're not antisocial. They're self-directed. They prefer internal validation over external applause. And interestingly, research shows that people with higher emotional security feel less need to broadcast their lives. They don't need constant confirmation that they matter. They already know. This doesn't mean they don't care about others. In fact, many of them are deeply observant. They notice tone changes, posting patterns, the difference between real joy and forced happiness. They're quiet, but they're paying attention. There's also a pattern you might have noticed. Many people who avoid Instagram or TikTok still consume long-form content like YouTube or podcasts. Why? Because those platforms don't demand performance. You can learn, laugh, or reflect without being watched. No profile pressure. No posting guilt. No algorithm measuring your worth. It's connection without exposure. And that matters. Another psychological difference shows up in relationships. People who don't use social media often have fewer connections, but deeper ones. They prioritize real conversations over digital presence. Research consistently shows that relationship quality predicts happiness far more than quantity. 5 real friends outperform 500 online connections. And here's something most people misunderstand. Not using social media doesn't mean not caring. It often means caring deeply about privacy, presence, and authenticity. Psychologists distinguish between 2 types of self-awareness. Public self-consciousness, how others see you. Private self-consciousness, how you see yourself. People who avoid social media lean heavily toward the second. They ask, how does this experience feel? Not, How will this look? That shift creates emotional intelligence. When you stop managing a public image, you gain mental clarity. You think more deeply. You reflect more honestly. You build an identity that exists even when no one is watching. And that's powerful. Here's the mistake people make. They think not posting means hiding. In reality, it's often the opposite. It's choosing not to turn life into content. Some moments lose meaning when they're performed. A sunset is better when you're watching, not filming. A conversation is richer when you're present, not drafting a caption. An achievement feels stronger when it's private. Studies show that people who rarely use social media experience less emotional volatility tied to approval and rejection. They're more stable, more grounded, more internally anchored. And here's the paradox. The exact traits that push people away from social media, self-awareness, control, confidence, are the same things social media claims to offer. Connection, expression, belonging. Instead, it often delivers pressure. A performance economy where silence feels suspicious and privacy feels abnormal. People who opt out aren't rejecting connection. They're rejecting the terms. They choose connection without the show. So maybe the question isn't, why don't they use social media? Maybe the real question is, what do they know that we don't? Because no one at the end of their life wishes they'd posted more, but many wish they'd been more present. The people who don't use social media aren't invisible. They're just living where validation isn't required. If this made you think, subscribe for more psychology-based deep dives. And if you want to support the channel, hit the join button to become a member. I genuinely appreciate it.